Cool. So we're live on YouTube. Beautiful. How have you been? What have you been up to?
Oh, just, a lot of family stuff. I have two teens, so they keep my awakening process very rich.
Okay.
So yeah, and just building my YouTube channel with lots of, expanding consciousness content. And I'm a musician, so I have two recording projects that I'm starting to think about and plan. And so yeah, lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, sick. I saw you do a lot of stuff on vocal work.
Yeah.
Is that your main thing in terms of music, or do you have instruments, or do you write? From a
I
musical
write
perspective?
songs. I write songs and chants, but I also do spontaneous singing and sound healing.
Okay.
And so I have two projects in the works. I have like 14 songs, like folk songs. And then the other project is to do like just some spontaneous singing and some of the chants that I've written.
Okay.
So yeah, just lots of stuff on the table to play with. And vocal stuff, yeah, I sing for seniors, and I do a lot of like meditation stuff and just just shows and stuff. But I'm also like a coach, and I don't know, I do a lot of different things.
No, I think it's awesome, and I think it's someone commented on my channel today on yesterday's podcast. We were talking about producing beats and hip hop. And the comment was that there seems to be a common thread in this community with music. And I think that's really awesome to see, like, it being as a core part of what you do every day. Was there like a jump from one to the other? Did music and working on vocals and harmony and things like that lead to your focus on awakening, ascension, these type of things? Or was it the other way around? How'd it go?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It kind of like coincided. Like I actually was really into music as a kid. Like when I was 12, I started playing the flute and started playing the guitar and just teaching myself. And then the broadening perspective, awakening started happening in my teens and my late teens. And then I really got into guitar. And I really loved singing. I felt like really called to sing and perform. I was like super, super shy. So it was like this conundrum. But my best friend took me to an open mic one night and when I was 24. And I loved it, but it scared the crap out of me. So it was like this, but that was the moment when it was like, I loved being on stage and I felt like all of myself, like that awakened moment of like, I love who I am. Who is this? I want more of this. You know what I mean? And so that's what led me to actually like my performing life really showed me a part of me that I wanted to live all of the time, right? And then I got really into yoga in my 20s and I became a certified yoga teacher and stuff. So my yoga practice really fueled opening my voice, and my voice really gave me content to work with on my yoga mat. So it was kind of simultaneous.
Okay, that's cool. So was the general thread just expression? I mean, I personally have had that experience recently. Poetry was the medium of which I chose to practice that expression more, to just be able to actually express and overcome the obstacle of shyness or embarrassment or whatever that blockage is. Were they like intertwined? Was expression like the core thread that you were using as your?
Yeah, I think it was expression, but it was also like, my whole life just feeling like I had a superhero inside of me, but like, it was like locked in this really small box. So like I have a twin sister, and the two of us loved to sing and dance when we were little, but we were so shy. So when we stepped outside of our house, we'd be like, like nothing. So, it was interesting. So it was expression, but it was more like a calling. It was more like, you're here to do something. You're here doing something. You're lighting the way here. Get out there. It was like, your divine God spark being like, get the hell out there. So that was kind of cool. And I remember in my early 20s, like maybe 25, when I started feeling like, wow, I have something to share. I am writing songs that are shareable. I remember almost crying and like praying to angels and being like, I will be your your source. I will be your source to get music out into the world. So like from a very early on in my songwriting, I really wanted to read writing with the purpose of awakening, awakening consciousness messages. And then I went through a lot of different phases of my, trying different things out as a born again Christian, as a yogi, as a Reiki, there's lots of things that inspired my songwriting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I get that. I've gone through very many schools of thought and gone to different courses is the only way to really describe it, but strange ends of the ideological spectrum. But I think it brings you always back round to just back to you, answers with you, because you can read every self-help book. You can look at it in business mastery. You can look at it in yoga. You can look at it in fucking anything. And it's always seems to be the same thread along.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's all within you. So I guess that's
brilliant. Yeah. And it's just it's funny because I started there with that knowing, like, I have all the knowing right here. It's just all right here. Then you go on this journey, and then all of a sudden you're kind of almost back where you were. It's more perspective, but you're like, wait a second, I was right here all along. There I was.
I can relate to that feeling 100%. Like what I'm doing now is what I've, in a sense, always been doing my whole life. But I had to go on this huge journey of trying all these other things. And I tried, like, I flirted with music and performance and acting and things like that. But I'm a speech maker. That's what I do. I talk shit, and I'm really good at talking shit. I've been doing it my whole life. But I always, one of my favorite videos that I've done, I mean, I know it's my own video, but is that how to find your purpose one, because it was very much the story that I've been living over the past 3 years or so. That's been like my main goal of what the fuck am I here to do? I've had this experience of spiritual awakening, enlightenment, oneness, whatever you want to call it. So I've understood that, all right, I'm consciousness, I can create anything. And then you have that kind of, when you're in a supermarket, when there's too many flavors of like dessert, you don't, I can have anything I want. What do I have? So you kind of go try and figure out that where that meets in the middle with who you are intrinsically and have always been and what you want to create. Because you can go and create wealth. You can go and create a business that's selling diapers. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? You can become a millionaire in anything. Who gives a fuck? What are you here to do?
Right. And it's just like, it just depends on like what you're going for. For me, what's always been like the super important thing was that that inner peace, happiness. Actually, it was really funny because I was just underneath somewhere today, I found old journals. Like I have like a stack of journals. And I remember finding one from 1992. And it was crazy. I don't think you were even born yet, right?
1 year before I was born, yeah.
So I was, in 92, I was like a junior in college. And junior in college. And I was reading this journal and I was like, oh my gosh, like just looking at like what I was talking about, where I was coming from. And all of it was just, my impetus was, I just really want to have this like really deep peace and sense of consistent, sustainable happiness. And I feel like I've really arrived there in this moment in time in my life. I wake up instantly happy. And so reading that in that journal, I was just like, oh, I just want to like hold that part of yourself. And you're like, we've done it. It's doable. You did it. Like, but the thing is those questions in that journal and that longing in that journal at like 20 years old, what catapulted me to this timeline here, right? So it's just it was really fun reading that this morning. And I've been on this thing of just throwing things out and just really minimalizing. But I had such a hard time throwing these journals out because
keep them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've found old ones. My dad was a salesman. I was a salesman from 15 to about 24.
I bet you're really good at that.
I was pretty good at it. But part of that meant that I had Zig Ziglar audio tapes, Tony Robbins tapes in the car when I was a kid growing up. So that kind of goal planning, personal achievement, positive mental attitude approach had always been in my life. So writing out your goals was kind of like a given when I was growing up. So I love it when I go back and find one from like 6 years ago, and it's a goal list of stuff that completely fucking useless. Now I look back at it, like now I'm looking at it like, why did my 17-year-old self really want this? Yeah. But I look back at it and I'll go, oh, I've got literally every single thing on this list.
Nice.
But I didn't even realize it when it was happening. By the time that I got it, I'd forgot that I even wanted it in the first place. And then by the time I got it, it was a big pain in the ass that I was complaining about. But I always think it's funny.
Yeah, totally.
There's definitely something to that. If you write it down, decide it's something you want, I think even if you're not consciously like grinding away at it, if you can like hammer it into your subconscious, you'll just go about getting it.
I know, and then like you said, once you get it, you're kind of like past that frequency and you don't even realize you got it. You're like, oh yeah. It's like, I don't know if you ever listened to Abraham Hicks.
I have done, yeah. It's not a core part of my studying, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff because she's like, you'll look for manifesting something, and then all of a sudden, like once you do get it, it's always an expanding universe and expanding awakening. So like once you get it, you're like, oh, like it's not like a big deal, because even though it was a really big deal to like launch into, I don't know where you launch into it, right? Like all of a sudden, it's like once you reach that vibration, because it's a vibrational match to the vibrational reality first. So you got there before you even got the object. So when you get the object, you're like, huh, all right, well, what's next?
Why was it up here on this pedestal the whole time? Why did I see it as something so bigger than myself?
Exactly.
Now I have it, I realize it is just part of myself.
Totally.
But I think it's fun to go through the process of becoming conscious of that process. Like we're always doing it unconsciously. We're always creating our own reality.
Yeah.
On a subconscious level. So I think the more we can pull things out of our subconscious into waking up, I'm not even saying conscious because like the monkey brain is a different thing, but into our just awareness of what's happening and how you can work with it. Maybe not control it because that's a bit of an ego thing to say, but work with it. Know that if you send a letter out, it's going to send a letter back in some way.
It's like manipulating energy a little bit. I actually just did a video on this I'm going to post today about being the master manipulator of your life. And it's just manipulation gets kind of like a bad rap, right? It's like manipulating is just moving energy, right? So it's just like, how do we become the master manipulators of our lives, right?
Yeah, and flowing with it in kind of a way. I like using the analogy of Aikido, the martial art where people moving and flowing with stuff, or judo. Judo is a more commonly known one, and that is just kind of manipulating energy, but without forcing it and friction it against it and stuff.
So, what is your martial arts background in?
It's in Tang Sudo. Actually, I can show you my certificate. That's my on the wall there. That's my black belt certificate.
That's your black belt certificate.
Yeah, I started when I was 4. And then continued training and competing until 16, and then I went to high school and started doing drugs and chasing girls and all sorts. But continued training just with a heavy bag and doing meditations and breathing exercises and stuff since then. But yeah, it was I'm so glad I had such a weird upbringing now. When I was at school, I was always like, why am I not playing football like everybody else? And why am I not down the park drinking, Alco Pops and stuff like that? Wine coolers, like you call them for some strange reason. Why am I not doing this? Why do I feel so left out and shit? But now I look back and I'm so grateful I don't live that lifestyle, because I'm from a very culturally conditioned part of England, Essex. It's a bit like the Jersey Shore of
England. Sure, actually.
Oh shit! All right, I take that analogy back.
I'm not from North Jersey. I'm from the Central Coast Jersey Shore. But, we're not from the big hair. But,
yeah, I'm from the big hair and fake tan part of just outside London. It's where everyone. Wow, okay. I like to use the New Jersey, New York analogy because everyone from Essex thinks they're a Londoner. They're not.
Yeah, I've been in Colorado for like 25 years, but
Okay.
the first 21 years I was, was back there.
That's fair. Well, yeah, growing up there, like I and don't get me wrong, I've been very actively part of that culture. I've had friends on reality TV and doing all that sort of stuff. But I'm so grateful that I've not been like fully involved in it. I'm so glad to be the weirdo that did karate instead of getting pissed. I mean, I still was getting pissed all the time, but yeah, it's just having that alternative growing up and being so like having almost like a militarized, like that military structure of discipline and respect growing up. I never get in fights when I go out because I know how to fight. Like I'm a big advocate of kids, especially young boys, should be able to learn how to take care of themselves. Because one thing that I learned when I started going out drinking and acting up and going chasing girls in clubs and stuff was that most fights that I would see would be puffing the chest out and swinging handbags at each other, just trying to prove that I'm a bigger man than you are. Yeah. When really you look at both of them and you prick them with a pin and they would deflate. So I'm grateful for that upbringing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I have two boys. I have two teens right now, 17 and 13. And I really tried to get both into martial arts. And the older one's pretty willful and stuff. I remember bringing him to a dojo when he was 4, as I had the little one on my hip. And the sensei really started in on him like, hey, like if you're going to come here and study, you have to respect your mother. You have to be this, this, and that. And this is this kind of kid. He looked up at me and said, Mom, 4 years old, Mom, I never want to come here again. And he walks out the door.
That's not his thing.
I don't think this is a match.
That's fair. That's not his thing.
Yeah, he's a skater, but yeah, I wish. Yeah, I've tried to do Reiki and meditation with these guys, and all sorts of stuff. But they have their own path. They're on their own journey there.
Well, I think that's cool. I mean, my dad was my big influence taking me into martial arts, and I wanted to from like the age of 4 till I'll say about 12. But to be honest, from the age of like 13 through to when I stopped at 15, 16, I wanted to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to go there. I felt like the weird kid that did martial arts. And because there was, I'd worked so hard at it. I was quite a high achieving performer in championships. There was that stay in it. So I've also experienced what it's like to have that. I'm not going to say controlling because that's coming from a different space, but that kind of stereotype.
Yeah, it's like almost like sport thing, so. Like I had that draw too. I was like an overachiever at school and overdid everything, overstudied, and I was always interested in human potential, and like, so it's like it could have been considered controlling, but I was always like, how do I be the best me? Like what, that human potential movement happened like started in like the 70s and stuff. That was the term that it was called back then. But so it's just it's not. Yeah, it does get down to like, how can I manipulate and control certain things in my life to get the best outcome of me? And now we know like it's more like the flow and alignment, and it's not so much rigid.
Yeah, I think it's within what I was saying about control earlier was more not wanting to be there and having to be there. So having them pushing the other way and rebelling way too far in the other direction.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I think it's cool to whatever you want to do, be able to do it. Like having had a very strict upbringing, I'm definitely going to go the other way, which is do whatever the fuck you want to do, kids. Which probably a bad idea. Now I'm saying it out loud.
Well, I don't know. That really shows a trust in. I've seen both ways, and my husband tends to be a little bit more the, the more. I don't know how to not strict in any way, but more disciplined.
Orderly, yeah.
But there is this thing, there's a body of work you might really appreciate. Have you ever heard of Access Consciousness?
No, I haven't.
It's a body of work I studied for a while, and it has some really great tools, but it's not like necessarily spiritual or energetic. It's just kind of it's energetic basically, but really look into it. It's really cool. But they have these ideas about parenting that if you trusted your child as being an infinite being and just trusted their awareness enough to know what they know, then how much parenting do you
needs to be
really
done.
need to do, right?
Yeah.
And I've tried to live that way. I think it's hard. It's very hard to parent that way because if you have to be 100% in allowance of what's going on and stuff. And it's tough because when you do become a parent, like everyone's throwing stuff at you, like statistics and things and attachment and all this stuff. And your kid's not flowing in those directions. You're like, you feel like a shitty parent. And you're like, oh my God.
Well, I think that's a real good way of approaching it. I think there wouldn't be such a huge need for people to find themselves at a certain age if they were just allowed to express what they naturally, almost on, I don't know if it's a genetic or spiritual level, or just are here to be good at. Some people are good athletes, some people are good fighters, some people are good whatever it is.
Right.
And I've heard of Steiner Schools. I can't remember exactly what they're called.
Steiner, Waldorf.
I think so. I was talking to someone earlier this year about them and how those schools are just structured with more, let the kids see what they're interested in and then let them just master it.
Yeah, Montessori too. Like if they have a certain skill, they get to just keep working in that subject, They keep finding success until they feel guided to the next subject. Or I think Sudbury schools too as well do that.
I went to a Montessori, actually. I'm not sure. I've never heard of a Sudbury school. But I went to a Montessori. I just remember it being a big open room and you just kind of got to do what you want.
You guide to, you're like, oh, I'm guided over here today.
I just like the toys. I just remember there was a particular toy I liked. Yeah. So I'm terrible with the live chats. I'm not terrible. I'm learning to get better with the live chat. Roku's awesome. We did a podcast with him last week. Has asked quite a while ago. Sorry, bro. I don't mean to ignore your comment. Rebecca, could you give us like an introduction on what you do, what your channel's about, and just a bit of a Sure. Normally that happens at the beginning of podcasts.
I know we don't do it like
that.
We just followed the flow. What do I do? My channel actually started a really long time ago, but it was just because I've been performing and doing coaching work and stuff, and I would just throw things on there. But I would say the beginning of this summer, I really started kind of just doing a video every day and just really getting on it with the work that I feel really called to do, which is about expanding consciousness and being an Ascension coach. That said, I also do positive music and light language and things like that. So my channel's really just taking all the tools that I've gleaned over the years and putting them into videos, just basically with giving the collective consciousness a broader perspective. And the people that are drawn to the videos probably are ones that are creating a new collective, the awakened collective conscious. So, so yeah, it's all about expanding consciousness, light language, positive music, just inspiration, and living our most brilliant possibilities.
That's awesome. What I really love about this wave of channels that is cropping up, especially this year in 2020, is that they seem to have a similar direction on you can't see me, direction it's all kind of roughly going in, but all of them are a representation of all the aspects that make you Rebecca and make me Alfie and make Roku and stuff. So your experience comes from a background of music and yoga and these schools of thought and this. So here are all the things. Here's how I approach it, and it's kind of becomes this cross section of me that you put up on here. And I do see some, because there's a lot. What drove me to make this channel was the sudden awareness that so many people across the world were experiencing that weird moment that I experienced 6 years ago, and you experienced, what was it, after school, in your teens, wasn't it? So
I wouldn't. I wouldn't explain it like a moment. Like I guess in retrospect, it just seemed like one long moment.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to say this year it happened. I mean, I don't know. I got hit by peacock feathers with Shaktipa when I was 19. Maybe that exploded something for me. I don't really know, but it seemed like one more long moment from my teens to now. I don't even know.
So I should have asked. That's normally that's in the 3 we've done so far. That's been the first question that I've asked. What was the before and after moment? But that's interesting to hear. Actually, a similar Kyle that we spoke to the other day, Agent of Divine. He's got a channel. He's 16 years old.
I tuned into that. Yeah. What a bright light at 17. Wow.
It's so awesome. I love having these chats, and he said it was more of like a range process. And I think for me, it was like working with the ideas for a while, but there was definitely a moment where I had this kind of transcendental experience, and then life was never the same after that. I do find, or what I found though was that it's happening everywhere at the minute. It's happening these mostly like kids under 20 are just everywhere on like a mass level, are having this amazing transcendental experience where whatever's triggering it, the madness in the world, maybe they're questioning politics, or they're starting to fuck with meditation, or whatever it is, or maybe it's drugs, because drugs is a huge influence these days.
Want to hear what I heard recently? This is kind of interesting. These kids are coming in so high vibe, and I don't know if they have a certain title, like they're crystal or indigo. I think we're past indigo, but crystal, rainbow, I don't even know. They have this huge vibe, this really high vibe, and they're coming in, and this is what I heard. See if it's right with you. 2012 was supposed to be the, we're all supposed to ascend, right? And the planet did ascend to 5th dimension, but humanity did not. We're still working at it. And so these kids that were born in like the early 2000s and are coming in now, they are really disappointed vibrationally. They're like, I don't know how, they're so densified in these bodies, and they're agitated by it because they can't, they're stuck in these structures. And they're like, how do I go live my vibration? And so they're actually turning to drugs, one, because they're like, oh, this is how I can be a multidimensional. They feel more themselves because that's what they remember being. The other sad part is not even sad. I mean, however you look at it, but a lot of them are leaving bodies because they're like, I didn't sign up for this. I want to go, explore the universe here. I thought I could do it. I thought bodies were doing that at this stage in the game. And, so I thought that was an interesting thing I heard recently. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Doesn't it? I mean, if you're not attached to bodies or lives, like it's like, I'm just like out of here. Oh, I think I'm gonna do drugs because but drugs is gonna just keep lowering their vibration. So
That's true. But then again, first of all, what you said completely explains the ADHD wave, which purely just means that you don't fit in the square box we're trying to push you circle pegs into. But that makes total sense. And also I hear a lot of talk about how the whole point of coming to this life, I mean, let's go esoteric with this conversation, because I quite want to it is to forget who you are. So if we are all infinite spiritual beings, and we are experiencing life through like human bodies, the whole point is to not know what you're doing. And the whole point of like mistakes like getting hooked on fentanyl or crazy, like way too strong drugs that people should not be having at all, let alone at like 17, 16. Like I fucked with cocaine for like a year, and that nearly fucked me up. And that's like such an old school drug. Like when I see what a lot of people are doing, I lived in the States for a little while a couple of years ago, and I thought that we partied too much in London, but we do all the old school drugs here, ecstasy, and cocaine, and ketamine, and things like that. I come to the States, and it's all Xanax and pharmaceuticals.
Meth is a big one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really intense stuff, and it's tough having teenagers at this stage in the games, watching what they're choosing. But
I can
yeah,
imagine.
it's
Yeah.
a little tough. But I think we are here. Like one of the things on my channel is the tagline I always say is that we're remembering our greatness together.
Mhm,
It's remembering that God spark, and like
mhm.
we do come here to forget, but then it's like how fast can we remember again?
Yeah.
I studied
Yeah.
the Course in Miracles. That was a huge awakening for me. Have you ever heard of Course in Miracles?
Course in Miracles. No, I haven't. No.
It's a book. It's a 600-page book. It's like a year study, and it's kind of crazy. It was channeled
Mhm.
by Jesus, or it's channeled from Jesus, from a Jewish psychologist did the channeling, and she was like, "What is happening? I'm Jewish. I'm a psychologist, and I'm channeling Jesus, and the 600-page." Anyway, it's kind of crazy. It's an amazing study, but that like just pulled the rug out from under my life in a big way. I
Mhm,
was 28 or 9, and it's like there's a workbook page for every day where it just starts retraining your mind. Like, look around the room. That doesn't exist. That light doesn't exist. And it just talks about the illusion of
mm,
everything out in this physical world's an illusion. And that
mm,
God doesn't even like, it's kind of like a teenager sneaking out
mhm,
the bedroom door and the mom doesn't even know that it's left. Like Source doesn't even realize that you've left the building. And it's
mhm.
like it's your job to remember and come back home kind of thing. So I don't know, it's an interesting thought that way, but yeah.
I like that thought. I like that thought. I like the. It's something that I tried. Well, not try to. It's something that I repeatedly go to when meditating. Is a reminder that everything outside of where I'm locking myself into, like inside myself, is just an illusion. This it's just sounds. It's just frequency. Like it's only when you put a label on it, like oh that's a dog barking, or that's my neighbor, or that's my
Mhm.
housemate turning music up. Like it's only when you put a label on it that it becomes a thing. When it's not, it's just a you can't even label it. But
Yeah.
that process of remembering, I think, I mean, I say it a lot on the channel, but I think all the darkness, all the dumb shit, all the like mental health, and I've had my own, like the mental health
Oh yeah.
wave that has happened on the planet. Like everyone has realized things haven't been working. Because things haven't been working, we've all had mental health issues, and then we've all had to go learn how to heal those mental health issues. And if you look at the drugs or at the tyranny that happens at the minute and all these dark things, I think these are, well, how do you learn in life, in even just a practical way for someone that's not even into this stuff? You learn by mistakes, don't you? You learn by problems. Nothing good.
Contrast, right? You feel
Yeah,
the contrast and you're moved enough by the contrast to make a different choice, right?
yeah, growth doesn't happen in summer. It happens at the end of winter after you've been through all the cold and the
Nice.
dark and the death.
Yeah.
It happens just after then is when you start growing.
Yeah.
uh, so all like the kids that have come and got addicted to drugs, for example, knowing that this isn't how things are being done. Well, good. Not good. They've been addicted to drugs. Not good.
Yeah, the
Well,
contrast
but
is setting up. So on one level, it's like
also,
being like a who I am on my channel. It's like, oh yeah, I totally, they're living the contrast to make a different
mm,
choice. And then being a mom, I'm like, okay, hold on to the perspective. Try hard to hold on to the broader perspective.
I could get that. What is your opinion on the Ascension? Really, you mentioned 2012. I'm of the understanding that this right now is actually 2012, and that the
That's what I
Gregorian
yeah.
calendar
Yeah.
is off, and the Ethiopian calendar, which is the oldest one we have, says that this is currently 2012, and that's what we're experiencing right now. What we all thought was going to happen 8 years ago. Um,
That's interesting. Like that, we're not even off course. That it was like it's happening now. Is that
hmm.
your idea?
Well,
I don't know. We have the Great Awakening happening, like you're saying. Like there's all these people like popping, and the way
mhm,
I studied the Bhagavad Gita through Sat Shri last year, and
okay.
that was very eye opening to this ascension process.
Hmm.
It was very interesting because he put this diagram up about like, okay, here's source, here's the let's say the sot, the tit, the sot, the tot, the chit. All these yoga words, but there's source, which has no creation. It's just, the light. It's the nothingness, right? And then there's the tot, which is like the creation force, which would be God, which is creation energy, which is not even in source, right? Creation source is kind of pretty content just being like, but then from there, the creation energy is formed. And then we go into creation and embodiment. And once you're embodied, you forget, like we were just talking about, we go into this amnesia. And the awakening is the pop, right? The awakening is the dejection, the witnessing over here, where you come into this corridor. I think it's like the 4D perspective. And you come out here and you're looking at yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm remembering. And oh my gosh, you start having these broader perspectives and you come over here. And then on this side, you start, where am I here? You start this ascension process. So the awakening and the ascension are almost two different things, I feel like. Like the awakening is the pop of that broader perspective, and the ascension is that real embodying of it. And, back in the day, we weren't able to take this ascension energy into these physical bodies. But now, with the evolution of humankind and our DNA switching around, now we can actually take this ascension energy and embody it. These bodies, these physical bodies can take that frequency now. And so that's the process. It's like you pop, you have this dejection, which is the hardest part. Is all that questioning, what's my purpose, what's happening? And then the ascension is more like unity consciousness, embodiment. It's not as hard. But I was in that dejection process for a long time, and it was painful. But then the ascension process has its own challenges, because then you're embodying this high frequency energy into this dense body, and that has like almost like physical pain at times, and it has
have you had any symptoms? I hear people talking a lot about ascension symptoms that are
they are real. Some people don't experience it at all. I go through waves of it, but the sleeplessness, and I'm at the age too where my hormones are shifting, whatever that is. But now I'm learning that women's menopause is actually a time of enlightenment as well. It's a time of, so it's like, I
suppose it's transcending the biological function, the 3D, the physical thing, and it's getting away from that mechanical part of you, and then
exactly. So it's from like I heard of this yesterday, like the Newtonian from Marianne Williamson. She's talking about the Newtonian science as opposed to the quantum science. So it's like back in the 20th century, we were into the Newtonian. 21st century, we're into quantum stuff. So it's like, gosh, what was your original question? Oh, 2012. I don't know.
I don't fucking know either. I do definitely think we are experiencing human evolution in front of us. I think we are, and I think that's a common message. Anyone that I've seen create content, anyone that I've spoken to, even some celebrities that have clearly had some sort of experience and struggling for the fact that they can't talk about it because of who they're signed to or whatever. You can see it in the art sometimes of certain things that it's evolution, and that was the idea. One of two ideas. One was about spirituality and science being the same thing, just from different time. Not spirituality, religion and science telling the same story of something beyond it. And the other idea was that, all right, well, I mean, this was coming from the Darwinian evolution school of thought, but it was that, all right, well, we ain't growing wings anytime soon, but how else did we evolve? And it was, then I started thinking about, well, we're still pretty racist as people. Maybe we'll evolve past that. We're pretty shitty to eat each other all the time. Maybe that's how we evolve now. And then it was these ideas that, from kicking around these ideas in university, I think I was 19, 20, that led to having a transcendental experience. So I think evolution is what we are, I believe, experiencing. I also think something else, and I forgot what it was. Never mind.
Spiritual evolution. Yeah, I feel like that word. I've learned a lot since doing my video every day and really tuning into other people in our niche. I've really opened my perspective to a lot of things, and I've also recently done about done some work in something called Marconics, which is a real up and coming, leading edge kind of ascension energy, and that's been like blowing my mind open, or just blowing my mind apart. But it's I've been through these channels and through this new energy that I'm playing with. I'm learning a lot about like our influence with like the Galactic Federation, and
I've only been introduced to this very recently.
Yeah, me too.
However, it seems to be flooding in from everywhere I look right now.
Yeah, and
every channel that finds me, every Instagram page that I follow, it seems, or people that I'm meeting online talking about this Galactic Federation.
I know, right? And so this is the way I think about it. Like, if we are having a sovereign connection with Source, and the way I see it is like Source, our ascended selves, and then our God spark are almost this trilogy type of thing. And we have this sovereign connection. There's so much outside that sovereign connection. There's all the, alien light workers that are trying to really help us along. There's all these entities. There's astral entities. There's portals to all different places. I'm learning about all this because it's starting to affect me. I actually got slimed the other night working with a client. I talked to my coach and she's like, "Oh, it sounds like you got slimed." I started getting really dizzy and my solar plexus started to like tighten up and I started to feel like I was going to pass out. And like, I don't know what just happened. I had a really intense conversation with these two clients. And my husband's like, "Are you okay? Do you want a hug?" And I was like, "No, I don't want you to hug me. Don't come near me. I'm going to call my coach." And I was like, "We'll just see where this is." And she's like, "Oh, sounds like you got slimed." I'm like, "What?" I mean, I don't know. You're maybe too young to know what Ghostbusters is, but you heard of
I thought getting slimed was that thing that happens on daytime TV when they drop gunk on you. And
she's like, "You got slimed by an astral entity." And I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever. I need to feel better." And she closes these portals. We established my connection again. And like within like 30 seconds to a minute, completely better, completely fine. So it was just like, if you don't know about this stuff, you start feeling like you're really ill. I mean, for years I was like heading to the ER and stuff, and people were saying like, "There's nothing wrong with you." Like, but I'm having this pain or I'm feeling this. And so these ascension symptoms are real because you start almost being sensitive enough to feel a certain effects of the unseen world, right? So it's just like, the thing is about the Galactic Federation, the way I see it is like, it's still just another story, right? It's still just another drama. It's still another story, whether it's on planet Earth or in the stars. That's how I see it. I look at the effect of it.
Yeah, and I think that's. I also, when I see a lot of stuff about things that are like, I really like the videos of Bashar. I really like that guy Daryl Anchor that channels Bashar.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters whether when you listen to it, you think that this guy is actually channeling an extraterrestrial or not, because what he's channeling, whenever someone is channeling, and this Galactic Federation seems to be a common thread with whoever has the ability to channel. I mean, channeling, as far as I'm concerned, is just flow state. I'm channeling when I'm making a video. I'm in flow state. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. Yeah. I do think that if you can access flow state and maintain it, I think my personal opinion on channeling higher beings is, I think it's simply just that one person channeling a highest level of their own intelligence.
I agree 100%. 100%.
And just like how back in the day when religion was the main science and the highest level of perception that human beings had back then was telling fairy tale stories about people walking on water, and as opposed to what it was actually symbolically representing, I think that we translate information as far as we can actually perceive it, if that makes sense. But then again, I might be fucking wrong, and the Death Star's currently docked above our planet. Like, I have no idea.
I mean, I think there
are the wrestler.
ships of light beings hanging out, and I felt them. I've experienced them. I have some crazy stories I could tell you, but I still feel very strongly about our sovereign connection to source. And I feel like that because I've had this somatic experience of really, through my own voice, just being sung by source, you know, just being sung by my God spark, lining that up. And everything else is information, is entertaining, is, you know, just support. But really what it comes down to is that true sovereign connection with your source and your knowing, and everything else is secondary, I feel like, you know.
I suppose that's the common thread that ties us through history. Like back in the biblical times, it's that same common thread, like that same connection that they were experiencing and explaining in their way, and now we explain it in terms of quantum physics, or we use metaphor and analogy from pop culture, or things like that to do it. But I think you're right. I think it's that connection to it, and I think you said,
just to piggyback on your channeling idea. Like I've been wanting to do a video about, you know, channeling, because it's like I'm curious about that too. I really like what you said about that, about channeling, because I feel like it is just being with our highest vibration of flow state. And it's interesting, like to I don't know if I should say it here, so maybe it's a private conversation. But
all right, after we turn the live stream off, we can maybe talk about it. But I don't know. Most of the point of my channel is about vulgarism. It's about taking these very high esoteric concepts and packaging them in ways and that John down the bar can talk about. So maybe it's just because that's the way I approach things, trying to rationalize the fantastical down to the digestible, not for us to talk about, but for someone who's maybe starting to question things, because 2020 is such a crazy year and goes on YouTube. A lot of people get switched off by white dude in dreadlocks that calls himself Rainbow and is wearing a hemp t-shirt. A lot, like, unless you're actively seeking spiritual information, you're not going to listen to what that guy has to say if you're John from down the bar. So maybe I'm just rationalizing a little bit too much, but I think a lot of it is just we are way more intelligent than I think. What's far more likely is that we are just way more capable and way more powerful in terms of what our minds can do than we can even comprehend. And I think we're just starting to experience what that is as a species.
I think you're right on. And I think it's like channels like yours and mine. I try to dumb it down a little bit. I think it's very simple personally. Like, I think sometimes we make too big of a thing of it, but like, I think it's important, these channels that you know, there's a lot of people popping, right? There's people popping into their awakening and they're just like, what the fuck? And so I really think it's important, like these channels, to help them feel like you're not alone here. You know, we've got you here. So here's some ideas you can try. These are some things that worked for me. Let us know what worked for you. And let's just have these tribes, these connected. I like the idea of all these channels kind of linking together as this like big tribe of like the awakening consciousness, and that we all have something, some wisdom and gem to give each other, because as you said before, we have all these different backgrounds really coming to that same source, right? Like it's all, here's the sun and here's all the rays, right? We're all practicing the different rays, and we come to the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I one of the chats we had this week was someone that looked at things from a point of view of magic, whereas I like to look at things from a point of, I like Taoism is my favorite school of thought. I really like Eastern philosophy, but we're all talking about the same thing. And what I have found personally very validating this year, being able to recognize that so many people are expressing this or becoming aware of this kind of part of the human experience, is that it don't feel quite as nuts as I used to. So like not only for these people that are just experiencing it, are there people out there for them, but it also it's validating to know that maybe the reason that some of us have had this experience for a while and maybe been on the fringes of popular culture or the fringes of mainstream thought is for a reason, so that we can all, and it's comforting for me personally that I'm able to join this sort of community and do that. And that even though my style is different to your style, is different to everyone that we've spoken to so far's style, there will be a huge amount of people that resonate with your style and resonate with my style, and it's still the same truth. So it doesn't matter which channel you go to do it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's exciting. It's really an exciting time to be alive, and I hope some of these new kids with their high vibration can start to really see that it really is an exciting time to remember, and that it's worth staying around, I think. And, but that not to be attached to that either. Like, but it's just, having a 17-year-old myself, I hope he really sees the value and the beauty of remembering these bodies and, raising in vibration in these bodies. It's kind of awesome, It's hard at times, but it's pretty awesome when things start to shift. And I don't know, I was just out in the woods yesterday, like holding the hands of trees and singing to them. And it's like, I've always been a tree hugger, but like taking it to this next level of holding their branches, like they were hands, and then just tuning in and singing the sounds with them. And it was like so blissful. And I was just like, where else do you get this? Planet Earth is like, what a fun experience, just sing with a tree and hold it and dance with it. I mean, it's just, it's really,
it's the age of Aquarius, man. It's the age of Aquarius. It seems like it's happening. It really does seem like it's happening. And I never saw it coming. when the year happened and the lockdowns hit and all that sort of stuff happened, I never would have thought this would have been where my year took me. Doing this sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was still trying to get famous.
So right before lockdown, right before, I guess, March, what did your life look like?
I was acting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'd worked in corporate sales straight out of university. So I mentioned that. I had success with it, but I had also a lot of misery, drinking, drugs, other things that were expression of an unfulfilled life. So I was earning a lot of money, but I was spending twice as much to kind of fill that hole. So there hit a point where I was like, oh, fuck this. I'm going to go figure out what I want to do in my life. And kind of did the cliche, went traveling, went and lived in another country for a while. And was like, what else could I do? The only thing that wasn't part of my, not strict upbringing, but my disciplined upbringing that I was interested in growing up was drama class. And my brother was already studying acting. He's younger than me, but he always knew straight out of the gate that he wanted to do it. So I gave it a go. I was doing that for a couple of years, got a couple of jobs, was doing the whole taking classes, showcases with agents and stuff like that. I was kind of getting to the end of my thread with it because it's just not the environment for me. I'm not a please pick me kind of guy. I found myself wanting to tell people to go fuck themselves too many times to be an actor. And then lockdown hit, so I spent time thinking about what else could you do. I've always been very artistic across the board, so I started painting and drawing, started writing poetry, started learning how to produce music, and was just kind of trying everything out. But it was all kind of coming from a space of trying to become famous, trying to become rich, and it always has come from a place of how cool would it be if one of these mainstream artists turned around and went, the world's an illusion. So I kind of always wanted to be that guy, but that was a very ego space to come from. But I was living in that space for the past couple of years. And then
it's probably developmental as well.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Developmentally, it almost, and then your age, almost like that's where developmentally maybe you are required to be for a little impetus to get something moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think actually that brings me back to something you mentioned earlier about how you have your awakening pop moment and then you have your ascension. And my theory on that is that your pop moment is like a glimpse at the finish line. You get a little glimpse of what life can be like. and then you come back in time and you're back sitting on the couch where you hit a DMT or whatever the fuck it was that gave you the experience.
Yeah.
And then you have to get to work on like earning that experience.
That's exactly what happened when I was reading the journal this morning. It
Okay.
kept like, I was like, had those little moments of like, wow, I just felt so good. I was so happy. And then like, here I am the next day. I was like writing the next day, and I was just like, here I'm back at it. How do I sustain this? And for me, it never was drugs. It was always my voice. Like the voice, I would have this singing, euphoric singing experience. And then the next day I'd be like, where is that? You know, and it's like, so it was the singing that kept drawing me to myself, my authentic self. But yeah, that's so true. I think that's a really good point to make. It gives you a glimpse of it, and then you do the work to sustain it, right?
Yeah, the shadow work, and so that was my video today, shadow work, and for most of it was it's too far away now, but it was journaling. Journaling was what got me through it. Learning the self-awareness and studying psychology so I could be my own therapist and understand how I worked and stuff like that. But I think with whatever practice or school of thought that you can, I think that you can learn to grow or develop yourself with any school of thought. You could do it being a window cleaner. You can become the best window cleaner on the planet and overcome every single trauma. In like, it doesn't matter. You can do anything. And I think grow as a person doing it. But I do think it's that kind of here's a glimpse at how life could be, and then you have to go get into work, becoming a fucking good person, which is the biggest pain in the ass in the world.
So true. So true. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. Anytime you want to jump on a live or you need another person, let me know. I'd love to.
Sure.
Or maybe I'll get you on my channel.
No, it's been a lot of fun. I'll send you a copy of this for your channel. Awesome. I think everyone should have a copy of the content. It's not just about me.
Okay, nice. That would be great.
And, yeah, I'll send it over.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I love your channel, and good luck with it. And however I can help, like, you know, help support you in any way, let me know. And
likewise. Yeah. And if you want to host one of these on your channel, give me a shout. Happy to anytime.
What is this live on YouTube?
Yeah, so this is a website called StreamYard, and then you connect it to your YouTube channel. It takes like a day, and then you send someone the link on the StreamYard website, but it goes live on YouTube. So it's really easy. It's super free. I think you can pay for better ones, but
yeah, that's great. No, I've been wanting to do a little collaboration with people, and I was just like, I'm not ready yet because I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's how I felt. I was lucky that Roku, I don't know if he's still in the group, he was, just told me how to do it. I've had other people show me how to do it, so I'm lucky, so I'm happy to help. But yeah, I'll download this and I'll send it across to you. Guys, Rebecca's channel link is in the description below. If you're watching this back, subscribe. Do as you're told.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm going to go to bed because it's like 10 o'clock.
Oh, what time is it there?
It's 10 o'clock, but I had a late one last night, so I'm going to get to bed after this. So
10 o'clock there. Okay, cool. My sister's in Bali right now, so it's like the opposite and 2 hours forward. So right now it's at 3 o'clock here, so it's 3 a.m., 5 a.m. in Bali. So wow. I guess you are like 6 hours, or I guess whatever. I don't know.
I'm not very mathematically inclined. I get this wrong. Every time I have a meeting with someone in a different time zone, I'm always like 7 hours off and just leave them hanging. It's a terrible habit that I'm working on. But I'm jealous of your sister in Bali. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.
I don't know how I get off this. I'll let you.